Good morning, everybody, dear teacher Adri, classmates. Here I'm going to explain about the case study. My topic is about the game-based learning and its association to students' behavior and motivation to learning into Verbo Divino School, developed by my person, Paulina Mena. As an introduction, first of all, I would like that you and all the people that are seeing that video note what meaning of game-based learning. One of the most complicated problems on the second language learning and teaching has been to define and apply a construction of motivation in the classroom. Some researchers assume that game-based learning approach is a new method that helps teachers, including students, teachers, and headmasters, and researchers too, to identify the methods to engage the students. For example, here the researcher had defined several problems in the English classes. First of all, there is a lack of motivation from students, and obviously not all teachers apply an appropriate methodology in order to support an English learning process. It means that the students don't show a great engagement. Also, some learners don't have an active participation. They don't focus on the class. This is the main problem that we want to solve, we want to research with this case study. The researcher wanted to elaborate a qualitative research with an excellent contribution, understanding different viewpoints from teachers and from learners too. In this way, it helps to create new ways to teaching and learning. The type of research was explanatory and descriptive, and the researcher applied a reflective journal, an observation guide, and an interview like instruments to cover all the purposes in the case study. We have here the general objective. As I have mentioned, the main objective or the main purpose is to determine the role of game-based learning and its association to student behavior and motivation to learn English in 8th grade students attending Verbo Divino School. As specific objectives, we have 3. The first is to examine the experience of English teacher in the use of game-based learning in the class. Second objective, to observe the changes in the students' behavior after the application of game-based learning in the English classroom. And finally, you have the third objective is to determine if game-based learning activities contribute to the student motivation in the class. For literature review, I could like that start with game-based learning, and then with motivation, and then with student behavior. Why I choose those topics? Because all of those topics are the main variables and the main topics that we are going to develop around the case study. According to Tribus on 2015, mentioned that that game-based learning refers to the borrowing a certain gaming principles and to apply them to real settings and to engage users. However, Faux and Discourse in the same year say that game-based learning is not just about creating games for students. It helps to play because it aims is to design learning activities. Here it is necessary to understand that game-based learning is not only a game. Obviously, we need to apply and we need to combine it with the technology, with platform devices, technological tools, some digital programs that we have here to create some activities and to create new games. And the motivation, according to Norris in 2001, expressed that the student motivation represents the students who are most successful when learning a target language are those who like the people who speak the language. So motivation in students is so demanding and so different from each other. For example, it's going to depend most of the time from the teacher and the environmental of the classroom, and maybe with another problems that can occur in the class. About student behavior, according Brown in 2001, explained that it is an easy catch word that gives teachers and simple answers to minister in the language learning. So, student behavior is more than an attitude. Is so different. It's completely changing during the day, during the class. It has another factors that can influence in student behaviors. Here we have the method section. We are going to start with the research context. It's about where we are going to develop the case study. As I have mentioned it in the beginning of the explanations, I would like that you know that this case study was developed at Verbo Divino School. It is located in the urban area of Guaranda City and the Bolivar province. The school was recognized by two important institutions. First, the Ministry of Education in the Ecuadorian Constitution is the first institution, and the second, the Confederation of Educational Establishments Catholic, on February 10 in 1981. Verbo Divino School offers early childhood education and elementary and baccalaureate education levels. There is an average of at least 1,000 of students, and also is a very good number of teachers working there. The school has 90 teachers, and from those, just 4 English teachers working in the school. According to participants, the population was developed in the 8-year from Verbo Divino School with a total of 37 students. And from those, I had divided it. The researcher divided it into 16 women and in 21 men. So I selected 3 participants for the interview and observation guide. All the 3 students had studied in the school since they were children, and most of the time showed different motivation problems in English classes. For developing the first specific objective, I selected the teacher to apply a reflective journal because I need to determine the experience of the teacher using game-based learning. As I have mentioned, the instrument that I will have is present here in the data collection. Let's take a look. We have here in the reflective journal model that I selected with 3 main researcher questions. It's made it according to the objective that I want to apply. And then we have the observation guide for the second objective. And finally, I have the interview. In the interview, I had an ethical consideration because as the participants are children, I required a parental consent. The parental consent was sending for the 3 days before applying the interview. Here I had the results. As I have mentioned, I selected the results from each one of the specific objectives. Here we have the first research objective is to examine the experience of English teacher in the use of game-based learning in the class. Here I had selected three main questions. We have here the first, how was experience teaching with GBL? Did you think that the students seem motivated with teaching game-based learning? And the last question, what issues did you identify in teaching with game-based learning? Well, in context, the result from the first objective is that the teacher has a very great issue at the beginning of the class, because the teacher tries to start the class without all of the materials needed. For example, where's a lack of technological sign, internet sign, and there was not a projector there, so it delayed by anyway the 40 minutes the class. We need to remind that all the classes has a lesson plan, and it's structured by a determined hour. For example, the lesson plan was for 40 minutes, and for this reason, the first issue that we have changed that development. Furthermore, the researcher realized that technological platforms makes the students look more curiosity, with creative, have an active participation. But we had another difference here, because not all the participants were motivated. Not all the participants had according the experience of the teacher. Well, the teacher had here a very great issue with one participant, and it was developing in the next results. For the second research objective, we have to observe the changes of student behavior after the application of GBL in English classroom. Sorry. Here, the researcher made a model of observation guide with all the comments, with all the meticulous observations that the researcher analyzed here. One of the most important analysis here is that GBL application have a good protagonism in the class. First of all, according to the participants observed, the majority of them wanted to participate, wanted to enjoy, and ask for information about how to develop or how to make some games for each class or each topic. In this case, the teacher was developing a class about grammar with ing, and obviously the students and the participants felt more comfortable because it was developing with some flashcards with games, and it's so different from the last classes that the teacher was developing with the students. Another aspect here is that the teacher observed one participant was unwilling, and didn't put the focus on the class. Why? The reason was every time watching the clothes, the window, watching the watch, and the time he was waiting the time for the recess. At the beginning, the teacher have observed this, but then realized the true condition, and that person has a syndrome of Asperger, starting in the few days. So then we have here the last research objective. In the result, we want to determine if GBL activities contributes to the students' motivation in the class. Here we have the interview with 3 main questions, and the results were a variety. For example, some participants that don't used to be active, to be participating, to be enjoying the class, suddenly offers their point of view, and they are stand here, their hands in the air to ask for information, and they demonstrated so curiously. And in fact, one of the participants asked the teacher for private class to develop a JIT mind and to teach about how to develop a testing quiz. So those are I think that was the best results we have. But also, as I have mentioned in the research objective 2, there was a person that have a syndrome of Asperger syndrome, and it was a very limiting work for the teacher, because he was noise, he was afraid, he was nervous, and he felt anxious. He was touching his face a lot of time. So this is a very limitation for the teacher's work. But it could be an option to go and put it to the authorities this case. After this, I had a proposal. As I have mentioned, I made a lesson plan and divided in three good aspects. First of all, the pre-teaching, while teaching, and the post-teaching. Why I selected this? And the pre-teaching is something like motivate, to incentivize the students, showing a video and giving some instructions about what are to refer in the class. And the while teaching is when we are giving theoretical class. We are showing our presentation. In this case, I suggest in this lesson plan to use JITmind. If we have here the links, we have here another in the post teaching with to reinforce all the classes that we develop, to reinforce with examples. We have here a retrospective in quizzes grammar, like with like and plus ing. This is one of the most important test platform that we have here. And the resources that we used are motivational video, presentation slides, and we can use flashcards for the games and quizzes test. Also, as an extra, I had designed some advantages and some tips to create a lesson plan, including GBL, for our classes as teachers. For example, we need to be creative. We need to let it fly and demonstrate how creative we are here. Yeah. Then we need to establish learning objectives, including the purposes that we want to go with GBL. Another is to avoid establish some games that don't include all the students. So in other words, we need to include some games where all the students can participate in incentivizing the challenges, gaps, and the competitions too. For the conclusions, I have selected 3 main great conclusions from that helps to support each one of the specific objectives. First of all, is really important for to understand that GBL is not only an approach, it's not only a method, it's not only a methodology. It's a very big strategy for teachers to implement in their classes. So according to the first objective, and we reminded that we had applied the reflective journals. Teacher in this case, so many different issues. First of all, with the time, with the lack of all the materials needed, required after the class. Then we have another, in the same conclusion, it's necessary to clarify that the experience of the teacher can change according to the lesson plan that he or she develops. Yeah. And the second conclusion is about the participant, that all the participants seem attracted to the GBL. In spite of one of them and don't be active and don't feel so so enjoying, he can understand the class. The difference that he likes to work individually, and maybe by the special condition that I have mentioned before, can be determined to avoid to demonstrate her motivation in English. And the third conclusion is about that the researcher has to apply more activities that include, I have mentioned already yesterday on the last slide, that we as teachers have to include activities that involve all the students, and trying to they be more competitive with more critical thinking. And this is one of the best conclusion according to the results that we have here in the interview. The researcher shows that the students feel curiosity about the new method. There were some students that was asking some private classes, and they were asking about the special topic. For example, we have here with grammar about ing. They wanted to do more exercises, so it's a good aspect to developing class. Finally, we have here the recommendations. I had, first of all, a very great recommendation that we need to be sure as teacher, and in the case study we saw that in the reflector journal, the teacher was observing and determining how the experience, how he felt. So it's necessary to be patient and to be more ready to be ready with previous required needs, such as time, such as devices, among others, in order to avoid the lack of time and get the purpose of the lesson plan we have, or maybe get the purpose with the time. In order to avoid this issue, teachers should be more carefully after they bring the class, preparing all the materials, as I have mentioned, and maybe could be a good option have a plan B. What will happen if the teacher don't have all the materials? We can improve. We can improve this, and maybe have another explanation and another game using all the technology that we have. And the second recommendation is according to the results of most of the participants enjoy the class, but could be better if we do something to carry out the class with all the students. And a good option could be to include activities with not a lot of distinctions of them. We can create some groups, we can create some working pairs, and make some challenges. Obviously, it has to be with all the respect to all the respect as possible in the class, because especially in this case study, and that and that grade that we developed. There are some people that can't stand noise, and we need to respect that. And the final recommendation, according to the developer of the research, is better if we apply new methods and games, interchanging points of view and suggestions. For example, here I would like to analyze something. When at the moment of the researcher did the interview, was a very very special kind of link in between student and the teacher. Obviously, not all the students speak in a very good. They don't have a very good English, but they try to do, and they try to do their best. In this case, some of the participants suggest the teacher how they would like to do the develop the class, and this is something that the teacher have to take in mind and take in consideration too, because we want that all the students learn, and they will need to create a good environment. So thank you for your attention. I'm glad that maybe if you have any question, I'm here to respond. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience, and I hope this could be a good experience about a good explanation about the case study I have developed. Thank you so much.